Edward pulls out a chair across from him, just like he always did. A quiet ritual, a habit that once held meaning. But today, just like yesterday and the day before, no one sits down. The second cup of coffee rests on the table untouched. Steam curls from the surface, rising in soft, delicate swirls before fading into nothing. He watches it disappear, just like the laughter that once filled this kitchen. Just like the voices that used to echo against these walls. Just like the calls that no longer come. The silence stretches, not the peaceful kind, but the kind that settles deep into the bones, pressing against his chest like an invisible weight. He picks up his phone, scrolling through old messages, searching for proof that he still exists in someone's world. 2 weeks. That's how long it's been since anyone reached out. And even then, it was nothing more than a handful of words. A polite exchange. Distant. Fleeting. Nothing that lingers. Nothing that makes him feel seen. His fingers hover over the keyboard. "Hey, how have you been?" The words appear on the screen, simple, unassuming. A small offering. A quiet hope. He hesitates, thumb lingering over the send button. If he presses it, they might reply eventually. Maybe with a few words. Maybe a day or two later. But if he doesn't, would they even notice? They say you should reach out first. But what if no one reaches back? His gaze drifts around the room, taking in the space that once felt so full of life. The table, now too big. The chairs, once pulled out in a hurry, now perfectly aligned, untouched for days. The house doesn't just feel empty, it feels like it has stopped expecting anyone to return. The air itself seems to have settled, resigned to the quiet. Maybe they're busy. Maybe they meant to call. Maybe tomorrow will be different. But deep down he knows, this is how it happens. The shift is never sudden. One day, the world stops knocking on your door. Then, it stops noticing you're gone. But maybe, just maybe, there's still a way to be heard, to be seen, to be remembered. Because no one's story should fade into silence. No one's wisdom should be lost to time. If you've ever felt like Edward, if you've ever known what it's like to wonder if your voice still matters, let me tell you this, it does. And that's why we created Elderly Wisdom Story, a place where stories like Edward's, stories like yours, can live on. If this story resonates with you, if you believe in the power of storytelling, join us. Subscribe to Elderly Wisdom Story, and let's make sure these voices are never lost. Because every life is a lesson. Every story is worth telling. And yours is just beginning. Edward stands at the front door, keys in hand, but he hesitates. The porch light hums softly above him, casting a dim glow on the empty street. There was a time when coming home meant something, warm voices overlapping in conversation, the scent of dinner drifting through the air, the sound of someone waiting. Now it's just a house, for walls that do nothing but remind him of everything that's missing. He finally steps inside. Darkness greets him first, then silence. A silence so thick, so absolute, it feels like even the walls have stopped expecting company. He sets the grocery bag down on the counter, hands moving on autopilot. A small carton of milk, a loaf of bread, a single apple, enough for one person. That's all he ever buys now. His eyes land on the calendar stuck to the fridge. A small red circle marks today's date. He doesn't even remember drawing it. But now, staring at it under the kitchen's dim light, he remembers. His birthday. No messages, no calls. The phone sits on the table, screen dark, silent. But he picks it up anyway, scrolling through his contacts, searching for something he can't quite name. A strange kind of hope flickers inside him, fragile, desperate. His fingers hover over a name, his son. He used to call every Sunday. But lately, the calls have been getting shorter. Last week, it didn't come at all. Maybe he was busy. Maybe he forgot. Maybe he didn't think it was important. Edward swallows hard, typing out a simple message. "Hey, how have you been?" His finger lingers over the send button. It would be so easy. Just press it. Start a conversation. Maybe even hear his voice. But then, another thought creeps in. A quiet fear that has been growing inside him for years now. What if he doesn't reply? He presses delete instead. The small cake he bought earlier sits untouched on the table. He stares at it for a long time before carefully placing a single candle in the center. The flame flickers to life, casting a soft, warm glow. He watches it dance, listening to the faint crackle of the wick, the only sound in the house. He tries to remember the last time someone sang happy birthday to him. Takes too long. He blows out the candle. No wishes. No one to make them for. Just the quiet puff of smoke curling into the air. The room fades back into darkness, and for the first time in a long time, he allows himself to say it out loud, just to see how it feels. I am alone. The words barely make a sound, swallowed instantly by the heavy silence pressing in on all sides. And as the darkness settles back in, a thought presses against his chest, heavy and inescapable. What's worse, being alone or realizing no one is looking for you? Edward sits in the front row of the auditorium, surrounded by the quiet hum of anticipation. The stage glows under bright lights, casting long shadows over a sea of eager faces. Parents whisper to one another, laughter ripples through the crowd, phones rise to capture the moment. But Edward barely hears any of it. Then there she is, his granddaughter. A little beam of light stepping onto the stage, her eyes scanning the audience, searching, hoping. And then she finds him. Her face lights up. A tiny, expectant smile tugs at the corners of her lips, just waiting for his approval. His daughter leans in and whispers, "Dad, isn't she amazing?" Her voice is warm, filled with love, the kind of pride only a parent can understand. Edward nods. He smiles. He claps when the others clap. But inside, nothing. No rush of pride. No swell of joy. Not even sadness. Just a dull, empty space where something should be. The applause crescendos as the children take their bows. Parents rise, waving, calling out names. His granddaughter looks his way one last time, her little hands clasped together, waiting for a moment that never truly comes. The drive home is silent. The radio hums softly in the background. But Edward stares out the window, watching the streetlights blur past like distant stars. Once he would have felt something on a night like this. The warmth of family, the pride of seeing a new generation take center stage, the simple joy of belonging. But now even the memory of those emotions feels like a photograph left too long in the sun, faded, unrecognizable. That night, he pulls an old photo album from the shelf, the worn leather soft beneath his fingers. Page after page, frozen moments of laughter, of tears, of a man who once lived fully, a man who grinned with his arms slung around friends, a man who danced in the kitchen with his wife, a man who held his newborn granddaughter and felt the weight of love so deep it brought tears to his eyes. His breath hitches. His fingers tremble as he traces the smiling face of someone who feels like a stranger. Where did that man go? The answer doesn't come with a crash, but with a whisper, a chilling and absolute. He didn't disappear all at once. He faded slowly, quietly, piece by piece. And the worst part? It's not that he doesn't feel happy anymore. It's that he doesn't even miss it. Because loneliness doesn't just steal your joy, it steals you. Edward used to walk every evening, the steady rhythm of his steps, a quiet comfort against the hum of the world. His wife used to join him. Her laughter filled the spaces between streetlights. They would talk about everything and nothing, their voices weaving into the dusk like an unbroken thread. But after she passed, the walk stopped. At first, he told himself it was just for a little while. Just until the grief wasn't so heavy. Weeks turned into months. The sneakers by the door collected dust. His body, once so used to movement, started to resist even the simplest tasks. Standing for too long made his legs ache. Climbing the stairs felt like scaling a mountain. He used to tell himself he'd go again soon. Now, he wasn't sure if he could go at all. One evening, he finally decides to step outside. The night air is cool against his skin. He takes a deep breath, grips the porch railing, wills his legs to move, but as he steps forward, a wave of dizziness crashes over him. The world tilts. His heart pounds erratic, unsteady. He reaches out for the wall, for anything, but his fingers grasp nothing but air. The ground rushes toward him. A sharp, jarring pain shoots through his side as he hits the pavement. He gasps, struggles to move, but the silence around him is thick, suffocating. There is no one to call his name, no one to rush to his side. Minutes pass, then hours. By the time he manages to drag himself inside and reach for the phone, his hands are shaking too hard to press the numbers. He has never felt so small, so fragile, so utterly alone. At the hospital, the doctor's voice is firm but not unkind. Edward, if you don't start moving, your muscles will waste away. Your body wasn't made to sit still forever. The words land heavier than expected, because he knows it's not just his muscles wasting away. It's him. He had spent so long waiting for a knock on the door, waiting for a phone call, waiting for someone to pull him back into the world. But no one was coming. And in that moment, lying in a hospital bed, he finally understands something he should have realized long ago. If he doesn't fight for his life, no one else will. But maybe, just maybe, it's not too late to change this story. Maybe the world never truly forgot him. Maybe he just needed to remind it, I'm still here. But what about you? How many times have you let the silence grow waiting for someone to break it? How many moments have slipped through your fingers while you hoped someone would remember you, only to realize time moves forward with or without you? Loneliness doesn't happen all at once. It creeps in, slowly, quietly, until one day you wake up and realize you don't just feel forgotten, you feel invisible. But here's what Edward's story teaches us. It doesn't have to be this way. Because you are still here, your voice still matters. The wisdom you've gathered, the stories you've lived, they deserve to be heard. And the world is not as far away as it seems. Sometimes all it takes is one call, one conversation, one moment of courage to step back into the light. At Elderly Wisdom Story, we believe no story should be lost to time. No lesson should fade into silence. Because life isn't just about existing. It's about being remembered. If the story touched you, if you believe in the power of sharing life's wisdom, don't wait. Join us. Subscribe to Elderly Wisdom Story and help us ensure that every story, your story, lives on. Because every life is a lesson worth telling. And yours is just beginning.